Hello and welcome to On the Kerbs. I'm your host, Tima Albers Daily. Joining me this week is American racing driver Kamari Odom. We caught up recently to chat about how he first got into motorsport, how IndyCar ended up inviting him to the Music City GP, why he wanted to study mechanical engineering, who his racing role models are, and much more. I hope you enjoy our conversation. So, hi Kamari, thank you very much for being here today. First of all, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you. Happy to hear you are as well. So, first question I like to ask everyone, what first got you interested in motorsport?
So, when I was 4 years old, I actually used to watch NASCAR. I still watch racing all the time these days. But when I was a little kid, I was actually scrolling through channels at my grandmother's house. And I used to play with Hot Wheels and all that a lot. So, I had a huge collection of cars. And I was like, okay, I want to get into this. I was always a car person. So, I saw NASCAR on TV. This was a long time ago. And I saw it on TV and I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to check this out. I loved it. I loved every single minute of hearing stock cars just roar around an oval.
Mm.
So instantly I knew that that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I just knew from that point on, it was everything I wanted to do.
Hot Wheels and stock car can't get to too much more kind of basic in at the start for it, can you?
Yes.
So then you started off your racing career in karting. Tell me a bit about that.
So when I was a late bloomer. So when I was 17, I decided to get serious about my racing career. So
Mhm.
I raced indoor and outdoor karts. So I was doing an indoor series for K1 Speed. I did that in 2018. But in 2016, I did the AMP series. So I did the racing school, and then I did a little bit of the AMP karting. So AMP stands for Atlanta Motorsports Park Karting. We just all call it AMP or AMP. Um, did that series for a little bit, and then after that, I got into a Radical SR1 in 2019,
Mm.
and that was actually because my mom found Primal Racing School out of nowhere. We were looking for a different series to run and cars to get inside of. And they had a program where you can pay $500 and actually get inside of a race car for half of a day. So it was
So it's
awesome.
not too bad, that is it?
Yeah. So my mom found it out of the blue. And we were like, okay, let's do this. And we did. And I got to meet some of the instructors who were actually, some of them are pro drivers now.
Mhm.
Um, and after that, it just from then on, it's been going just slight progression, building relationships, and it's just been amazing.
How was it getting in that car the first time then and taking it out?
Oh wow, that was everything I wanted it to be. It was a dream come true. Even though it might be just an SR1, they feel like big go karts, to be honest.
Little kid in
But
you was kind of just smiling the whole time.
yes, yes. Um, so because of that, I got to actually be an instructor as well. The very next year, as a
Oh,
matter of
nice.
fact, I did the racing school. So I did the racing school. I was an instructor for Primal Racing School for a little bit. Um, and yeah, it's just been from then on.
How did you find the flip side of that and the teaching side of it? Were you natural at it? Was it a bit weird to be doing it, or what was that like?
It was a little bit different. I've always kind of found myself better as a person that kind of knows what he's doing, but
Mhm.
I can teach certain things where racing is a little bit more difficult for me, but I'm learning how to be better doing that.
But it's, I suppose, one of the things you know how to do it, but your way of doing it may be different to how someone else is doing because it's so general yet so specific at the same time.
Yes. Everybody's driving style is completely different. So it's like how do you teach that to someone? You know?
Yeah, exactly, exactly, and trying not to get mad at them when they don't do it quite how you would do it.
Right, exactly.
So, tell us about 2022 from your perspective. Then, what did you get up to in terms of racing and just cars and everything there? What were you up to?
So in 2022, on my birthday, I had an invitation to run the 14 hours of Daytona. and that was thanks
That's a
to
pretty sweet invitation.
it was awesome. And that was actually the very next month. So that was from April 2nd. We ran that race, and that was a champ car race. And from then on, it's been really just kind of trying to find partnerships. You know, we in motorsport, it's difficult to find funding to continue to race. But if you get small opportunities, it's kind of, at least in America, it's very you can find opportunities.
Yeah,
So
and you got to grab them.
now we're supposed to be running. Oh, absolutely. So now we'll be running a SCCA race actually soon. We're still trying to figure that out. It might be this month, but in 2022 it was mainly that, and then I did I want to say did one more thing in 2022. Oh, and I did some coaching.
That's okay.
Mainly coaching, yeah. After that, so I was at Carolina Motorsports Park, and it was a small track day operation. So there's a group of car guys. They just love cars, and they've never been on track. Some people have never been on track. Very good day, no incidents, no crashes, nothing crazy.
Impressive.
So it was, yeah, it was a great day.
So that was either going to go one of two ways there from how you're talking about that. I was like,
yeah. But it was great.
How did the Daytona race go for you then?
That race was fantastic. Debut race for me, in fact, the entire team. And it was over 100 cars. And in that race, we had a top 10. We actually had a top 5 and almost a win in the bag.
Not too shabby at all for a first time out.
Yes. So for some penalties, we had one major penalty race where they said that everybody was doing this, but they said that we were passing under yellow. We all know how that goes.
Yeah.
But we weren't, but they said that we were. So that kind of messed up our race in the beginning, but we charged through the field to make it back to P6.
So can't make it too easy for you, can we? Got to give you a bit of a challenge first time out.
Absolutely.
And then from that coaching that you were doing, I'm curious, is there anything that you've learned from doing that, not just last year, but then previously as well, like you were saying you did a bit there, that you've been able to kind of take from it and apply to your own kind of racing through? So you're saying you're teaching someone one thing and then either they do it exactly as you said, but they still do it differently or something else, and you thought, that could be something I like that would be useful here.
I have learned some different things. So maybe my trail braking, or how I go into a corner, or how I think about each and every point of the track, looking at different points. For example, somebody at Atlanta Motorsports Park might look at like a pole as their marker. Okay, I need to start braking. Okay, even though there's different meters and different boards.
Everyone knows they can maybe do it a little bit later, or do you do it a little bit shorter?
Absolutely. So learning that and hearing different people's perspective, especially when I go to a new track, learning from guys that are veterans at the track, hearing what they have to say about it. Because I have an extensive sim racing knowledge of each and every track, but hearing it from them, whatever car, that's important to me, because it's like, okay, you know what you're doing, so I'm going to learn that and then go from there.
So you mentioned the sim racing there. I'm going to skip ahead slightly in my questioning because I want to ask you about that. So you do a lot of sim racing too, which it's gaining popularity over the last few years, especially. How much does it help you to improve as a driver? Because like you say, you are familiar with a lot of these tracks, but it's obviously very different when you're actually there in person, and maybe, for argument's sake, there's something completely different on one part of the track because they didn't have it when they were making it into the game.
Absolutely. I think sim racing is getting better and better every day. I've been doing it for around 15 years now. So seeing that progression, just how much has changed, the cars have changed. In fact, iRacing is starting to do weather. So they're trying to implement rain and fog and all kinds of different things. There's a lot of sims that have been doing that for a while. But when you have one of the major ones starting to do something like that, the way they develop cars and tire models, all of that is very, very fundamental, especially for somebody who's never been in a car. I know guys that I remember I was helping coach somebody a long time ago, and he was in a Mazda MX-5. I'll never forget it. We were at Road Atlanta, and he got in the car, He had one session. It was a track day, and he had a session. He did well. He got on a simulator in iRacing, and he dropped down 2 seconds.
Interesting.
It was incredible to watch. But all of that, I know that same here. A lot of people, I have some friends, other drivers that will be like, yeah, Kamari, you need to be in X car because you have that experience, or you're keeping up, or they've been doing sim racing for a while, so they see the potential as I've been driving.
I suppose it's interesting because the story you're saying there, because normally you expect it to go from the sim racing to the real life race. Essentially, you don't often see a lot of it the other way unless it's kind of some bit for a content creation thing, just to see what happens if we stick a pro in a sim, and then it all just goes to crazy. So for someone who doesn't, or drivers that are looking to get that chance in the real world, how important is that to try and keep them fresh? Because obviously there's nothing ever going to be quite the substitute for being in the real car, but
yeah,
it keeps you fresh to a certain degree. And I'm curious from your point of view how big that gap is still, and how much that's changed over the course of your 15 years in doing sim racing.
Back then it was more of a what we like to call simcade. A lot of games, except probably iRacing, that was probably still very serious simulator. But in that community, it's really grown. There have been drivers. Prime example, one of the most famous sim racers, Jimmy Broadbent. He won the Paddock Championship last year.
Yeah.
So, and then he's won on his debut. He did really well. James Baldwin, is another prime example.
Mm-hmm.
He did karting, yes, but he went from karting to sim racing, professional esports driver, and then raced for Jensen Button and won on his debut race. So things like that are like, and then he turned around and won a championship as well. So those kinds of things, they keep you sharp. Karting, of course, but karting is getting expensive these days. So, you need to run, at least definitely in America as well. To run a very proper, serious karting championship, you want to go to Formula One, for example, you're going to need to spend at least $100,000.
Yeah, and that's essentially the base level to get. Never mind,
that's the base
you get to later.
Exactly, absolutely. So even IndyCar or IMSA these days, NASCAR, it's the same. You want to buy a Legends car? I did Legends for a while. A Legends car is $13,000. Who has $13,000 to just get to a small
find that down the back of the couch? So
exactly. So these kinds of things are sim racing gives you that countless hours of practicing, as well as learning each corner on the track. And when you're at the track, sometimes you might feel a dip. Like I was at Daytona, prime example. I was at Daytona and I felt a small dip in certain parts of the track. And I was like, oh, okay. In the sim, this is different. So they laser scan them, and it's very, very well put together. But there are certain parts still that, okay, there's a dip
it's never going to be.
Exactly. It's never going to be 100%, but it's going to be very close to it now.
But I suppose the thing on your end there, you're saying you notice the difference between virtual and reality there, is that when you do notice those slight differences, you don't have to worry necessarily about everything else because you already are familiar with the track layout. You know where to look for say yellow flags when they come out. You know what gear you've got to be in, where X, Y, and Z. You've got all kind of the basics. It's kind of natural to you already. So it's kind of just you've got these issues, but you maybe have an advantage over someone who hasn't done the sim racing, but they're coming into it the first time, but they've maybe got more in real life experience, if that makes sense. It's kind of a weird thing to try and get your head around because you're trying to see who's got more of the edge there, but it's a different advantage that you just wouldn't have had maybe 20, 30 years ago.
Exactly. Back at that time, it was if you didn't know a track, you were kind of screwed. So you had to learn as you go, So, and that's, of course, experience is the best teacher, in any sport, any life in general. But it's gotten easier these days that you don't really have an excuse. You don't know a track. There's laser scan tracks. There's modded tracks. The modded community is huge. I use lots of different mods that are fantastic. So that that makes it very easy for a person to really get better.
And again, you've got all this information available to you now because there's just more and more people getting interested in whatever motorsport, not just Formula One, but again, in America, it seems to be ramping up even more across all of the motorsport series that you've got over there. And so any kind of information, whether it's about track elevation or weather that you'd be expecting on this day and how it affects track, you've got all of this stuff available to you. So at the very least, you've got your homework done. You can do your homework beforehand.
Yes.
And okay, maybe there's going to be a couple of unexpected questions on the test, but you've got the other 80% of it covered.
Yes, absolutely.
I am curious about something. I'm going to go completely different now, but you got an invitation from IndyCar to go to the Music City Grand Prix. How the heck did that come about?
So that's an interesting one. So the way that happened actually is IndyCar. So I am, because of some connections I have, I actually got to hang out with Ray Holland and Lanigan. So very well connected with them, and Andretti as well. I'm actually helping with some projects for some different things with them. But I had a connection, and out of nowhere, I remember waking up literally on like a Saturday, and I saw a DM from IndyCar. So
as you do,
yeah, I didn't believe it. Okay, this is a dream series for me.
Block spam next.
Yeah, I was so close to just no. I'm not gonna touch this. So now I read it, and it said that it was gonna give me free tickets to go to the Music City Grand Prix.
You're like, definitely block spam, get rid.
Yeah, right, exactly. That was last year. That was actually my first IndyCar race I'd ever been to, and that was because of a good friend of mine who helped me get there. He called me out of nowhere, said, "Kamari, do you want to go to this?" And I said, "Absolutely." It was a business trip, but
is that a serious question? Hell yeah.
Yes. So I said, "Oh yeah, I'm in." So that next year, right after that, they invited me. So I said, "Okay, this is close to home. All we have to do is travel maybe a few hours, and I'm in Nashville." So I got the 2 free tickets from them, and that was really what it was. They DM'd me. I made sure it was legit, and I actually got another connection out of that. So
what about networking?
It was amazing, and it was a great experience. That Grand Prix is getting better every year.
So were you just kind of allowed to walk around everyone, have a look around, or where were you where were you watching from? Where was your vantage point for that race?
I was everywhere. I like going everywhere.
Get in the candy store.
Yes. And then just saying hi to people that I might know or drivers that are racing that weekend, talking with them, taking pictures. A team that I work with and a mentor, but also a good friend of mine, was racing an SRO that weekend. Rob Holland was racing his team. I worked for them, and I might be doing that again this year, but I worked for them, and they were there that weekend. So I said hello to some different people and race shops that I knew that were just visiting. So I was all over the place.
So from the looks of it on social media last year, it does look like that race in particular. I mean, they've all got good vibes of different kinds, but it looks like very just nice, laid back, chill, kind of just good time vibes there. And then we'll have a race as well.
Yes. It's a Music City, so.
It is. If you can't get it there, then where can you get it? Let's face it.
Absolutely.
So you were just alluding to a couple of things that you might be doing this year. What are your plans for this year, and what can you tell us, or is it all still super secret?
Still trying to figure out some things, finalize some different things, and get some plans together. Right now, just continuously looking for funding, but the SCCA race, I'm not going to say anything's confirmed just yet, but we are still trying
PBC.
Yes. And maybe some other things. I'm actually trying to talk to people about it as we speak. So today I've been following up with people and really just going from there. But my real plan is to run World Racing League or the SCCA. If I got an opportunity to run SRO, maybe on a smaller scale. So, for example, a TCA, so Touring Car America, anything like that, I'm open to doing. But I'm obviously open to anything.
And it's the thing as well of having so many different forms of motorsport in the US and being open to not just channeling it into one specific area, you do then get that, as we were saying about earlier with the sim racing, if that takes care of the basics in a lot of ways, having that variety of real world experience, then you do then become a more rounded driver as a whole, because you never know quite what you're going to be able to apply from one to another. And it's always nice you never know when they might come in handy.
Yes. And something else I've been kind of thinking about a lot more lately. I've always been dead set on open wheel racing, or prototype racing, things like that. But what I've also been really learning more and more from drivers and just a team's perspective, as well as working alongside these teams, behind the paddock or behind the wall, or, that sort of thing. It's better to have as much experience, even if it's just GT racing, having that experience from other pro drivers, going against them. Prototype racing, there's ways that you can get to IndyCar. There's still ways that you can
there's always a way if you want it bad enough.
There's always a way. Absolutely. So having that experience saying, hey, I've raced against this person or been on this team for a very long time, so they know my progression, having all this experience going all over the world, because
make sure you're willing to do X, Y, and Z to make sure you get there.
Exactly. Everybody sees Formula One. Yeah, Formula One. That's great. But it's incredibly difficult, and you need a lot of money. So I'm extremely open to World Endurance Championship. I've loved WEC since I was a little kid as well. So things like that, IMSA, all of that, you have to be open as a driver, because you never know.
And the great thing as well about the endurance sports like WEC and IMSA is that you see a lot of people coming to that later in life as well. So even if they don't necessarily get the opportunities, or they somehow didn't know what the hell motorsport was up until that point in life and they were living under a rock, they can then come and be successful at it. And you do see a lot of those kind of stories. So it kind of, there's always that chance that you're going to make it. And even if it takes a little bit longer, that you're not going to be counted out. Whereas if you see it a lot with Formula One and the junior series there, once you get past 25, good luck getting in a seat. And it's kind of ridiculous.
Yes. And to add on to that, really, it's been, you see some of in the junior series, and it's discouraging because I know drivers, or I've seen it, because of connections I see. It's, you get to the Formula 2, you get to Indy Lights, or Indy Next is what they're calling it these days. And then you don't have an IndyCar seat, but you're a champion.
It's kind of like, what else can you do?
Right. And then it becomes a big, argument of money. Okay, well, they didn't have enough money to run it, but they're the champion. They're supposed to make $1 million, or in Formula 2's case, they're supposed to get tests. They're supposed to get all of that, at that point. So at which point do you, like you said, say, okay, well, I'll just do Formula E for now, or I'll just do prototype racing for now, or something else. You look at what Fernando Alonso did. He went to WEC for a few years, came back, and now he's doing well with Aston Martin. So
again, it's all about as long as you're willing to be open to other series and keep fresh. And again, it's clearly done wonders for him, because he's came back and just like, who's this old dude? Oh, actually, never mind. He's good. We're fine.
Yes.
So I'm curious then, you're saying obviously you're open to a little bit of anything and everything. Do you have any specific or ideal, dream, long-term ambitions? IndyCar maybe? Is that kind of, if you had to choose one, you'd go for that, or you just kind of, or what do you think? What was the one thing you always that would be when I know I've done well?
I would always say IndyCar, Formula One or IndyCar, and these days I'm leaning more towards IndyCar, just because it's one of those series specifically where, okay, you're on an open wheel. Okay, that's obviously one goal of mine. Street courses, road courses. But then you've also got ovals in the mix of that. Yeah, that's incredible. And now a lot of the best drivers in the world are coming back to IndyCar. Not that it wasn't like that, but
I know what you mean. It seemed the last few years this has kind of amped up a little bit. I don't know what's happened there, but something's come along.
Yes, people are kind of realizing, okay, this is way more of a competitive series than Formula One, where it's like, okay, you need money and people that want to give you that opportunity. And that's unfortunate, because it's like, that's the pinnacle. But how? Yeah.
That's a whole other conversation for a different podcast.
Yes, exactly. But that would be mine, IndyCar. just because it's always been a dream of mine. Indy 500.
Definitely.
Yes, and running those races, and it's still. I would love for it to go back to the glory days when we were racing, Brands Hatch and all of that. But
honestly, that's the only downside to it is as much as I'm enjoying seeing the American tracks and places that we just don't see in any other race series, unless you're specifically looking at America, you're kind of like, I wonder what they'd be like at Spa or at Silverstone or something like that. But then again, you think maybe it would ruin the magic. I don't know, but I want to try it at least, maybe just for an exhibition series or something, just to see what that would be like. Have a 6-race international championship after the IndyCar season's done in like August, September time.
Yes, I would love the same thing. We're on the same page.
Got to make it happen somehow.
Yes.
So going back a little bit now, then I'm curious. You've got the racing side of things covered, and you're kind of doing everything you can. But was that kind of motivation for you wanting to study mechanical engineering so you could understand that side of the garage a bit more, or was that just a bit of a coincidence?
That has actually always been a second passion of mine, building different things, robotics, and now more recently, or kind of all my life, but tech side of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to school for that because I wanted to understand the other side of the garage. Okay, well, some of the best drivers that have some of the best engineers also know how to tell the engineer, hey, this is what's wrong, or hey, this needs to be changed, and here's why it needs to be changed. Or I'm feeling something, on the car that
I want to know what that is. I want to be able to understand,
yes,
and it just
exactly.
makes for a tighter dynamic within the team.
Exactly. Some of the greatest drivers, we always hear Senna's story. Nobody believed him when he said, this is what's going on here, and the car is doing this. Nobody believed him until he went and then did well at Monaco.
But again, you even hear it this year with Lewis with the Mercedes.
Yes.
You listen to me a little bit more. I know what I've been doing this for a while. I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Lewis Hamilton and George Russell are going through that now. And Ferrari is going through that now. I mean,
they've been going through that for a while, to be fair.
Yes, they have been. But if you listen to them, okay, they drive the car. We see the tech and we see the numbers and the data and analysis and all that good stuff. But that only goes so far.
It.
Yes, feeling is completely different. So when you're able to talk to your entire team, and tell them, okay, guys, this is what's going on, or I know the data says this, but this is what I'm feeling. Cars are more. I don't like the way it's driving. Okay, it's not. I can't go any faster because I'm gonna push it and then I'm gonna be in the wall. So
I can prove that to you if you want me to, but it's going to cost you.
Right, exactly. So those are the kinds of things that made me want to go to school for mechanical engineering.
Well, it makes a lot of sense, and like you say, it kind of helps round that character out a bit more of kind of attacking motorsport from every possible angle there.
Yes, and then that's a long term.
Yeah,
so
I mean that's never going to go out of fashion.
Exactly. If you don't end up being a driver, okay, well, I can still be around cars, I can still be around racing, and I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any racing role models?
I would honestly say Willie T. Ribbs and Lewis Hamilton. Those are kind
Makes
of my
sense.
role models.
Those two. Willie T. Ribbs is. I watched the Uppity documentary during lockdown at whichever point that was, and yeah, again, you'd heard of him, but you didn't know enough about him. I thought, there's a good Netflix thing, and very interesting story there, and just kind of very kind of just throw everything at it and make it work in any manner, and he did.
Exactly.
And Lewis, well, we don't need to say much on, to be fair.
Yes, he's a mentor of mine as well. So to have that, it's an honor, and I'm so glad to be somebody I can say that.
No, definitely, that's pretty cool. So I've got a couple of fun non-motorsport questions to finish off with. Would you rather have the ability to control all dairy products or the power to walk through walls but fall through floors?
Wow. I'm going to say walk through walls.
You're falling through floors as well, bro.
You might as well. That's Portal. That's basically Portal, the game Portal. That's basically what it is.
That's true. And then if you could compete in an Olympic sport, which would you choose and why?
I would say track.
Any bit of track in particular? 100 meters, 200, long jump?
Maybe the 100-meter dash.
Just go straight. Reason why, quick and done.
Yes. Either that or 200. I was always I actually ran a lot as a kid. So that's something else. I love running, enjoy fitness. So that would have just been awesome. And I know people who, not necessarily the Olympics, but they ran track. They did it in college. So I would definitely do track.
Fair enough. I knew we'd get something straightforward like that out of there. I feel like there's speed. I had something with speed. It wasn't going to be anything else. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I want to thank you very much for your time and wish you the best of luck with everything for 2023.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your time as well.
Thanks again to Kamari for coming onto the Kerbs with me. I can't wait to see how he gets on in 2023. If you want to follow Kamari's career, links to his socials will be in the description below, so do go and check those out. Join me again next time when I'll be chatting to another famous face from the world of motorsport. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as well as check out the back catalogue of episodes on the On the Kerbs channel. If you want even more from me, you can listen to me chat about everything Formula 1 over on the Undercut Podcast, as well as delving into the world of Nitro Rallycross over on the Nitro RX Podcast. Both available wherever you get your podcasts. As for written content, I currently write for Is It Fast, Paddock Sorority and Paddock Passion, so be sure to check all of them out with original pieces released each week. All of the information and links for those will be in the description below, as well as my Instagram handle if you want to go and follow me there. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back soon with another episode.